this lesson we're going to cover making patterns for the creative application. We have the style lines that we input earlier, and now we're going to turn these into patterns to make this into a virtual shoe. So this is easier to do in the 2D view, and I'll just click maximize to maximize everything. These two here, the 2D and the 3D, you can access by the key F5 and maximize by the function key F6. So if I press the function key F5, it will toggle between the 2D and 3D view, and F6 will maximize the view. There we got it. Okay, so back to the patterns. The function we're going to use is piece. New piece. We'll give it a name. Let's just call this a cap. And okay. And now we're going to start to make the cap pattern. Don't worry too much about the arc usage for the moment. This will come in handy later. Okay, so the only consideration with Shoemaster is we select the lines in a clockwise direction. So if I start here on the feather edge, go to this line and this line, right click and complete and accept. Now you'll see I've got the piece. If I toggle to the 3D view, you'll see I've got the 3D piece here as well. Okay, so toggle back to the 2D, and now to take out the next piece, I'm going to want to go back to the view, redraw last and style. Now I can see the style lines. We might as well talk about the redraws quickly here. We've got this one, which is redraw the shoe when we finish. The others have all got a little name coming out there. Redraw the last. And if we go to the 3D view, to redraw the last, redraws the last. To redraw the last and style lines, we see the last and style lines. The next one is redraw the packet, because we've got, if I go here to the style panel and click on the plus next to style, we'll see we've got a packet here called creative, and if I click the plus, you can see there's only one pattern in it at the moment, the cap. So this one, redraw the packet, will redraw all the pieces in the packet. At the moment there's only a cap pattern in the packet. And redraw the piece redraws only the piece. Redraw the piece and the style lines. Now we can see the style lines and where the piece is. And this functionality is the same in the 2D or 3D. So when you're starting out, I suggest that every time you want to make a new pattern, go to redraw last and style, and then we can see the standard nicely. Okay, so the next piece, new piece, we're going to call this one the vamp, and we're going to just move this out the way, and now we'll start to make the vamp pattern. So I'm not going to start on the feather, because the feather will highlight the feather the whole way through and it might be a bit confusing for you. So just start at any line off the feather. Once again in the clockwise direction. Select the feather, select the next line, select the next line, and the feather again. Right click, complete and accept. Now we have the vamp. And if I go to the 3D view, we'll see we've got our vamp. Now if I redraw the packet, you'll see we're drawing both pieces. There's still something not right here, because the toe cap and the vamp are smooth and they don't look like different pieces yet. So let's first do the counter piece, redraw last and style. We'll just do the counter quickly. Now you'll notice we've got two sides to the counter, so the way that we can do this in Shoemaster is with our piece, new piece, and we'll call this the counter. Okay, move this out. Now the first selection, clockwise again, when I've come to the first half of the counter, I right click in the screen, it's a next circuit, and now we're going to create another circuit within the same piece. So I'll select the lines again, right click, complete and accept. Now you'll notice we've got one piece, but it's got two different circuits that are apart from one another, and you can see here at the counter too, the cap, the vamp look familiar, but the counter isn't really a familiar looking piece. However, if we go to the 3D, we'll see that the way that it was drawn gives us the counter in the correct place. Now if I click either redraw the shoe or redraw the packet, either or is going to do the job. we can see we've got the full shoe, but as I mentioned earlier, everything is smooth and we can't see any differentiation between the surfaces. So the first piece I want to modify is the cap. So if I select the cap in the browser over here, you'll see there comes a square around the cap. And now in the properties window over here, I get a whole lot of settings. So the ones that I'm looking for here is we've got a thickness of 1 millimeter and an offset of 0 millimeters. So there are two ways I can do this. I can either make the material thicker, and you'll notice as I make the material thicker, you see that it creates a definite step there. So the material thicker keeps it smooth on the inside and gives it a step on the outside. And if we just put this back to 1 where it was, the other option would be to offset the piece. You can see it's offset. We create the same result there, but at the bottom there's a little bit of a step because of the offset. So I would say in this situation it's better to make the material 2 millimeters thick. So I'm going to do the same to the counter, make the thickness of the material 2 millimeters, and there we've got those looking as if they're actual pieces on top of one another. Now this looks very plain and boring, so we're going to add some textures to it. If I just click on the textures panel here, we've got some default textures here, and you can add to these as you like. So I'm just going to let me choose the pale lime suede, and I'll make the vamp. If I click on the vamp, and now we've got the different edges. We've got the outer surface, the inner surface, and the edge surface. In this instance I'm going to click on all of them, because we've got, you can see on the counter here, we've got the green, which is the inner surface, this gold color, which is the edge surface, and we've got it the same gold color as the outer surface. So I just click anywhere. If I go back to the textures, select the texture, and the texture that I want to use, I make a double left click, sorry. And you'll notice you've got it right when the cursor turns into this cross that you can see on the screen now. And then I'll go over the piece, say all to be that color, and this one as well, all to be that color. And here we've got the pieces with textures on them, and the only thing that's missing here now is the stitches. We can go ahead and draw lines and make the linings, but this is a really basic how you can do this. So this is the first upper pieces. Once you get this right, then you can start fiddling around with the rest. What we could do here to give the illusion of a lining is if we go back to the textures, and let's just choose ourselves, let's choose this nude suede, double left click, and if I click onto the counter and I just say make the inner surface that color, and on the vamp 2 make the inner surface that color, and on ToeCap 2 make the inner surface that color, right click to finish. Now I'm going to left click anywhere to get rid of that box. Now you'll see it's the illusion of a lining. This isn't a lining, but it's an illusion. Okay, you'll also notice here that on the vamp the edge is very square. So if I select the vamp over here in the browser, and I come over here to the properties window again, you'll see the profile there is flat. So if I click onto in the word flat and then click on the little arrow and say let's make this rounded, and you'll see it gives it not such a flat edge, and it sort of looks a bit neater. I'll do the same to the cap, the profile. Just click on the word and then on the arrow and make this one I'll make half rounded, and I'll do the same to the counter. Profile, make this half rounded. You'll see it just gives it a little bit of a better look. Now let's just quickly put some stitches in here. So I'll go to the 2D view, and here I want to select the cap first, and now I'll come up to the top, redraw the piece, click out because the whole piece was highlighted like this. I don't want that. I just want to select these two arcs, this one and this one. So I can either select these by selecting the first and pressing shift and adding to the selection. Alternatively I can just drag over the two, but I can see those are the two that I want to put the stitch on. So now right click on the arc, markers, offset stitch, apply. Now I'm being interrogated to which side of the line I want it. I want it on this line. Right click to finish, and if we have a look at the 3D now, we'll see our piece with a stitch on it. Let's go back to the 2D and finish the process. Select the counter, redraw the piece. Now I can see on this corner here I want to do the stitch, offset stitch, apply this side, and the same here. Markers, offset stitch, apply this side of the line. Let's do the vamp, select the vamp, redraw the piece, click out, select the two arcs, right click on the arcs, marker, offset stitch, apply on this side of the line. Go back to the 3D view, redraw the shoe, and now we can see we've got the shoe with the stitching on it. You'll notice something about the stitching. If I just zoom in a bit, you can see the gaps between the stitches and the size of the stitches. These can be altered over here in the stitch settings. So if I click onto the stitch settings, I get this dialog box here. Now we can see all the stitch settings, and this one is stitch A because these stitches that we've got here are actually stitch A. So here we can see the length of the stitch, which is 2.5. So I'm going to change this to 3 and apply. And the stitches, well, they were only 2.5, so they got a little bit longer. But the gap between the stitches here I feel is a little bit much. So here, instead of 0.75, I want to put 0.2 millimeters and apply. Now you see there's only a smaller gap there, which make the stitches look nicer. In a later lesson, when we deal more thoroughly with stitches, I'll go through the rest of the functionality at the bottom here, where we can adjust maybe this one, the width and height. We won't worry about the rotation now. So the width of the stitch is 0.5. If I wanted to make that 1 millimeter, I could. So yeah, stitch is 1 millimeter. Alright, and the height is 0.5, so let's make the height here 0.3. Apply. There you go. Okay, these stitches might be a bit wide at 1, so let's make them 0.7 and apply. That looks a bit better. We can also change the color. If we click this arrow, we've got a selection of colors. However, if we click on the color box here, we get the full Pantone spectrum of anything that we want, and we can go and choose the colors that we want there. So, OK to that, and close to this. Right, so here we've basically got a couple of quick patterns for this little pump, and we can always, if we redraw the last and style, any line that we modify here, as soon as we modify the line, if I redraw the shoe again, the shoe is changed too. And if I undo, obviously it'll just undo what I did there. So we can see that. And that ends this video. The next one we will cover the unit.